and we should be good. All right, are you there?
I am here.
Beautiful. Perfect. Now I'm going to change this. I'm going to get that off. That's so stupid. Very, very funny. Okay. Sorry, guys. I have to take off the filter here. Or it's going to stay on because that's just the way it was left on my last Yoga Kids thing. So anywho, all right. Sorry, everybody. We've had a few technical difficulties and I do apologize for that. My name is Ann Bingham and I am the sole parent representative on the Find the Light Foundation. And I am here with Gabriel Helms. He is a candidate for the Board of Education for Fort Zumwalt. So Gabriel, in a couple of minutes, please tell me why you're interested in, tell me a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in the Board of Education.
2 minutes, huh? Okay. That's it. So born and raised here in St. Louis, Missouri. I graduated from Parkway North High School. I went to Florissant Valley Community College. I went there a couple years, got an associate's degree from there. Then I moved on to Northwest Missouri State University. And then from there, I graduated from there, moved on from there. After that, I got the chance to play football for a few years after college, and had some fun. Got to travel and see some things, and really have some growth as an adult, as a young going from a young man to an adult. I got to learn a lot, and so it kind of helped mold me into who I am now. And moved back here around 2008. Coached a couple years over at Fort Zumwalt North High School. Coach Joe Bacon gave me an opportunity. Always be grateful for. Thanks, Joe. I got to basically cut my teeth in coaching, and that was my first coaching opportunity. I was there for 2 years. After that, I pursued the fire service. From there, since then I've been a firefighter and a paramedic. For going on, this is my 10th year doing it. I'm sorry, my 10th year doing it. I love it. From there, now going back to as far as why I'm interested in being on the board is, I think Fort Zumwalt is a phenomenal district. I think there's, despite being a phenomenal district, there's still a few areas that I see, they can stand to catch up. And I really learned to appreciate Fort Zumwalt as a district when I was a coach. I just saw how it was being over at Fort Zumwalt North. I was actually spoiled when I was, because I had Joe Sutton over there as the principal. He's awesome. He just has a different type of vibe there. It's very family oriented. Never felt uncomfortable, never felt out of place. And so from there, I obviously have kids, who are in the district. We've had a couple meetings. I've gone to a few board meetings for reasons that were other than to praise the district, I'll say. And I was really impressed with the way they handled it, the way they took me serious as an adult, and as a parent. So, but with that being said, I do still notice that there are a few areas of downfall, not of downfall, of shortcomings that I'll say that they have. And I think obviously diversity is one of them. And I think that it's just a matter of, you can't control who moves into your district, and you can't force diversity into any area. But when it comes, you have to have a platform that's accepting for it, and I think that can use some work. Not to take anything away from anybody who's on the board now or has been on the board prior to now, who have done things to help the board's growth in those areas. but it's a fluid situation. It's constantly
Yeah.
changing, and that's something I'm passionate about. It's something I work with colleagues of mine in the fire service for the pushing diversity and just exposing what the fire service is to a lot of different people who look a lot of different ways. And as far as also involving both genders, male and female genders. So um that's just one area. Another area I see that attracted me um to the interest that I have, that really brought the interest really to the surface, is what I see for special education. I think that kids with special kids are needy, period. Let's be clear. But they have, but for the kids who have those special needs, we have to accommodate. And I think that the district does a great job. I think there's still I think some stuff is antiquated. I think some things could be probably not think I know need to be reassessed and really thought about in today's world. Because when a lot of these things were put in place, it was prior to today, whether
Yeah.
it be a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it doesn't matter. Everything needs to be reassessed when it's a constantly changing situation. So those two things really got my attention. When it came to the district, and see it that, and being that this community is as great as it is, I see it. I see this district just going up from here. It's only going to get better.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Okay. So I've got a lot of questions. We had a lot of great input from our community. So I'm very
Okay.
excited to really get your take on a few things. So we're going to start with just sort of your reasons for kind of getting into this. We talked about your reasons for running for the Board of Education. If you're elected, what will your priorities be?
For me, so for my priorities, one my so I like to be able to list them one, two, three, right? But however, sometimes you have to go to two before one is even feasible. So I'll just name the top three things that are important to me. And one is teacher support. I think teacher support is vital. As far as whether it be financially, whether it be through resources, whatever they need. I think we really have to sit down and figure out, what do we offer them that they really utilize? What do we offer them that they never utilize? And what is it that we don't offer them that we need, that they need? So I think that's important. Along with that, obviously the students, student support, making sure the students are being that we're trying to that we're affording every student every opportunity to succeed. It's not easy, and it's never going to be complete. There's always going to be something changing, so it's going to be an ongoing thing. Character education is a big deal to me. It really is. I think that a lot of times we can focus on numbers and tests and these scores and try and fit these kids into these boxes, and using those boxes to then quantify the child as a person. And to me, is you can't do that, or even to quantify the legitimacy and the standards that in within a district. They use that to, when it comes to the district rankings. I mean, but the thing is, it's fine if somebody can score a 32 on the ACT, but they can't, write a check. It's kind of, or they can't keep track of their bills accordingly, or they're lacking the interpersonal skills that
Sure.
that's required when you have to sit down. It doesn't matter if you have a degree. If you can't get through an interview, talking to somebody and have a face-to-face conversation and be comfortable doing that, then that's a problem. So they kind of become their own worst enemy. So and it's for and one other thing is diversity, making sure that every decision made on this district's behalf is made in a way that we're thinking of how it's going to affect or as many, if not all the students that are involved. And that's hard. It's not easy. It's always going to be, well, what about this, what about a person from this dynamic, or with this situation, or they don't have this resource that these other students have. So it's constantly ongoing. So and I think you have to bring a lot of different, you need to bring as many different ideas and as many different points of view into those decisions when they're being made. And I think I have I think I have a different point of view than a lot of people who are sitting on the board and have sat on the board, not taking anything away from anybody who sat there prior to me.
Okay, all right, very cool. Um, what differentiates you from the other candidates or the board members that are currently on the board?
Um, I think my background. I think being somebody who has not always been in the best financial situation, I guess you could say. I've kind of had, I was provided a good foundation, but I made a lot of bad decisions as a kid and as a young man. So I found myself in these predicaments where, I had to get myself out of them, and doing that, and having to go through that is some character building that you will that is unparalleled from any book. But from there, so I grew up in the inner city. I was in the DSEG program actually, so that's how I got out to Parkway North. I've had the opportunity to live in a lot of different countries. I've had from Germany to Canada. I've also lived in California, Texas, Florida for a period of times. In the Northeast before. And so you just, doing, when you travel as much when you travel like that, you get to see so many different things, and it starts to change your point of view, and it starts to change the lens that you see day-to-day life through. And I think my lens is a little different. I think my lens comes with some well-traveled lessons, and just the ability to empathize with people who don't look like me, don't or I don't go through the things that they go through, or whether it be because of race, religion, or sexual orientation.
Okay, all right, very cool. I'm going to jump into some questions from our community members.
Okay.
So the first is, how are you going to advocate for and support special education and related service providers in the district?
So first things first, when it comes to that, let me first say that if I am afforded this opportunity to be on the board, this will be my first time on a board of this magnitude. So with that being said, I first know I have a lot to learn. But as far as my approach is definitely going to be one grounded in the opinions of those teachers and those TAs and those employees of the district who work with those individuals hand in hand, day to day. So first thing I'm gonna do is get as much insight as I can from the people who actually are working with those who have special needs. Then from there, we figure out what the priorities are, because at that point we have to have a pecking order at how we approach, whatever we're doing. And once that pecking order is established, we figure out the best way to go about it that will not just have a quick solution, but a long-term solution. I do believe those are more efficient and more quantifiable. I know sometimes they're not as popular, but I definitely am more interested in long-term solutions and short-term fixes. So that would be my approach. Now, like I said, there's a lot of things I have to learn about the inner workings of the district and how to maneuver through the district to get things done, which that's up to me to find out.
Okay, all right, terrific. How are you going to support teacher salaries being more aligned with other districts to keep experienced staff who have worked for the district long term?
Um, I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
Sure.
Caught the first.
How are you going to support teachers' salaries being more aligned or becoming more aligned with other districts to keep experienced staff who have worked for the district long term?
Well, I think like a lot of things, I think it just has to be reassessed. We have to reassess the salary situation. We have to look at how competitive we are with these other districts, and we have to take it serious. We do, and I mean, because that's the only way to retain these good teachers and these good educators. And we have to remain competitive. And so first thing I would do is try and inform myself as much as I can as far as what the other districts almost said competition, but what the other districts actually do offer their teachers, and we have to compare that to what we have and what we can afford. And if we can't afford it, we have to figure out a way to afford it to make it happen. But again, there's a lot I have to learn about the inner workings of the district, and how things are done and how to maneuver through to get things done, which is something that I really plan on hitting the ground running on if I get the opportunity, because I want to learn as much as I can, so that when these issues come up, we can figure out the best approach to getting it done, to getting a long-term solution done.
Sure, sure. Okay, so aside from the business aspects of how the district is done, what types of ideas do you have to help students in the district to be successful and well-rounded before graduating high school?
So me personally, my ideas are that I would like to think that we can kind of take some more time or contribute a little bit more time to them as people, to young to the to these to the developing of young adults, that we actually have a chance to do. As far as specific ideas, I know for me, I feel like every every student should have one go-to, at least one person that is in their building, in their room, or they have access to when they come to school, that they can trust and they can go to and just completely unload on, as far as, not in a disrespectful manner, but just if they need to just pour their heart out and just vent. So I think it starts with implementing things like that, and then from there, I think people become more comfortable with who they are, and I think from there, the student that will reflect in the student body and how they conduct themselves as well, because I think it creates an overall better dynamic to be in. And I mean, I use the word family kind of tentatively, but when you come to school, you're here 40 hours a week practically. So,
Yeah,
so nobody wants to be anywhere 40 hours a week that they hate. What I mean. It's that they're uncomfortable in, or they don't feel accepted or wanted. And I think that's first. I think that's first things first, because no matter what resources you provide, if somebody's uncomfortable and they don't feel like they belong, then they won't take advantage of it no matter what. They
yeah,
just want to get home.
yeah. Okay, all right, terrific. Um, how would you address concerns in the community from previous board meetings that letters were read with no acknowledgement or response to stakeholders? And that's from a North Middle School parent. So basically, letters were being given to the board, and there was effectively no acknowledgement or response, according to them. Yeah,
Well, me personally, I feel like there's no excuse for that whatsoever. Um, it's not. I mean, I can't really speak for why that happened or what the situation was when that happened, but I know me personally, there's no excuse for that whatsoever. And I know me personally, I wouldn't allow that to happen. Now, even if I have to personally step out of my lane, quote unquote, to at least acknowledge that yes, yes, we did receive the letter, or we're still discussing it. At least communication is important. Communication is everything. If people don't feel like they're being heard, and at that point, they either one, give up, or either two, it changes them and makes them a lot more frustrating, as a much more frustrated individual, and that's not anything we need in this district at all. I think, and that, so for me, the way I would have handled that, I would have made sure I established that line of communication and made sure it stayed open, and as long as it needed to be open for. Like I said, as to why that happened, I don't know. I like to give the benefit of the doubt to the board as to what there being some legitimate excuse, but all in all, at the end of the day, it still needs to be a line of communication, at least acknowledging that was taken, that letter was received, and that it's being dealt with, accordingly.
okay, okay. Okay, so this is from a Mid Rivers Elementary and South High School teacher and parent. How do you plan on using your position to advocate for students and teachers?
Uh, in any way I can. honestly. There's no cookie cutter way when it comes to advocating for parents and teachers, because I think those are the two most those are the two most vital those are the two most vital positions within the district. I'm sorry, I thought somebody was coming through my ceiling. Uh,
Busy
uh,
household.
yeah, that's my kids. They said hello. Anyway, but no, seriously, I mean, I'd use whatever route I could. I definitely, as usual, want to talk to the teachers and see what they're comfortable with. What their thoughts are. How do they think it's been handled so far? How do they think it could be better? So on and so forth. And I plan on putting those things into action. I mean, there's no way for me to not listen to a teacher, to give a teacher what they want, what they need. Um, so that's basically my approach. Is I'm going to listen to those individuals, when it comes to teachers and students, and then from there, like I said, create our pecking order, and then go after it from there, and figure out how we can get the most amount of things done in a timely fashion, and make sure they're all long-term fixes.
All right, cool.
All right, long-term solutions.
All right. So what plans do you have regarding student mental health in the future? And this comes from a student at Fort Zumwalt South.
I think it's a great question. So again, unfortunately, it's one of those things I need to learn the inner workings of the district a little bit more. But I definitely think that is something that we fall short in. We fall short on as a country. It's not just a district. Just as a society, we fall short on mental health. As far as mental health resources. Me personally, I want to explore as many options as possible, because that is something that I think is vital to our students. I think with the combination of the amount of stress that's put on our kids, because the district's a great district, but let's just be frank, the workload is tremendous. And I think a lot of the students are definitely being affected by that, and it's unfortunate, but that is something that is, to me, is vital. I have a passion for it, and I'm willing to take any advice from anywhere and anybody, any ideas anybody has. But I know for me, I feel like, just from the position I'm in and the experience I've had and the knowledge I've gotten thus far, I think we just need to provide more to those students, whether it be through counselors, whether it be through programs, on site or off site.
Okay. All right, great. So this is from a parent at DuBray Middle School, and it's related to our sex ed program. And with a child in high school and middle school, you're probably, or about to go into middle school, you're probably familiar with this. The American Association and Academy of Pediatrics and the CDC all recommend evidence-based and comprehensive sex education programs be offered to students. Will you, as an elected board member, address the need for comprehensive sex education and also acknowledge that the current program, Thrive, is not comprehensive? If so, what timeline will you set to address the transition to an effective sexual education program?
Wow. um, well,
It's a good question.
it's a great question. That's the thing. It's a phenomenal question, first and foremost. So as far as that goes, one, I want to understand what the downfalls or the shortcomings of the Thrive program is. I will tell you, me personally, I have not investigated the program enough to where I can give you an educated answer on it or opinion of it. However, I have unfortunately heard a lot of not so positive things about it. So for me, that's one of those things. If when I look into it, if I see that is hurting our students in any way, whether it be socially, mentally, or whatnot, I will definitely try and approach it aggressively, because I want anything that's hurting or hindering our students. I don't want them to have any part. that's just how I feel, not only as a board member, but as a dad. I don't want nothing that's going to hurt my kids to be anywhere around them. So first thing I would have to do is figure out where the downfalls are and where the shortcomings are, and then from there, create the path to success that we can come up with together. I definitely want to be effective, and our parents and teachers, such as the one that just sent that question, I want them to feel inclusive and include in the decision-making process as well. So I don't want to just be sitting up here on a board making decisions for people and not involving and including them. So that's the best answer I could give you for that. I hope that's sufficient, but yeah, that's the way I see myself dealing with that particular situation.
Okay. Here's another related one. What ways do you have regarding student drug addiction, such as trying to tell or convince them in a healthy way that it is not good to cope with mental health?
So it's not good to go through drugs,
Right,
is what I'm assuming.
right.
Okay.
And as
So you
a
said, what is?
follow-up that may clarify this, one of the things that we've heard through the foundation is that the DARE program has not been an effective deterrent to drug usage, and there have been Zumwalt, the district does have a substantially high rate of addiction and death by overdose. And so I think that's where the student is getting to, of like, what are ways do you have to sort of combat both of those, that we have a program that it doesn't appear to be that effective. And then we also have this compounding factor that students are using to deal with some mental health issues.
Right. Okay, so that's kind of a two-part deal there. And so what I'll say is this. So so in comparison to the DARE program, so first of all, I'm a huge advocate of the DARE program. Let me first say, I think its purpose is awesome. Is it a bit antiquated? Probably so. So me personally, I feel like the way teenagers and the way these young adults that we're the way we apprehend things is like it really has to be in their face. So I think doing things such as bringing in guest speakers, people who really carry the who people who can really gain their instant respect and their instant attention, because the way teenagers are, if you don't get them in the first 3 minutes, they're gone. The phones are back up in their hands and they're back at it. So you have to kind of so in my opinion, I think we have to start thinking outside of the box. So we do the DARE program, but our numbers are still rising. So we're seeing the same at the least. So with that being the case, this isn't working. So we need to look into bringing in outside people, bringing in guest speakers, people who may have been former addicts and now they're clean, and now they're doing inspirational speaking, or they're making themselves available and they're telling their stories. And a lot of times when you hear from the horse's mouth, it impacts you a lot differently. And I think teenagers, those are the people who they listen to more than us old boring square parents that know
It clearly
nothing
can't work Facebook.
and
Got it.
have been anywhere. So and as far as resources for that, it just goes back to the same as with mental health. We have to start thinking outside the box, and we have to start figuring out and finding these other resources out here that are available to the kids. And I'm not saying it, please understand, I'm not insinuating it's simple and it's something that could have been done yesterday, but it definitely should be a priority, and it's something that we need to prioritize better.
Sure. Okay, I'm going to shift a little bit and we're going to talk about some educational programs.
Okay.
What do you believe the district needs to address in our academic programs and offerings, and what changes would you recommend?
Trying to be the best way to answer this. So as far as specific programs, academic programs, I first want to make sure I know what all of them are first before I start call myself chopping them down. So I want to make sure, and I want to see how those programs are affecting, positively affecting student body versus negatively affecting student body and the teachers. I'm really I'm not going to say anything about what I would cut out. What I will say this though, what I will say is this: is that there definitely needs to be more time for students to be teenagers, I should say, because I think that I think right now the workload is so heavy on them, on the students right now, especially the high schoolers. I mean, they already have this tremendous workload. Then on top of it all, now you have COVID, so you can't even get out and stretch your legs and do things that you could at one point. So I think all of that is just adding and adding and making it a lot for the kids. Trust me, I'm not one to pamper my kids. So I'm an advocate of work hard, and sacrifice. But it's even to the point I sometimes feel sorry for my kids. But I don't tell them myself. I don't tell them that. But yeah, but it is serious. I think that I think we really have to look at how much we're putting on these students, and it's one of those things that's kind of taking the joy out of it from what I can see. I think when they get times to be together and hang out, they take advantage. But I definitely think it's a whole lot less of that now more than ever. So, and I think those times are important, and that's where they build those character skills that school that they're not getting in school.
Yeah. Okay. So to that, you said you were really interested in the kids being more well-rounded. So what do you think is the school's role in teaching children about topics like sex ed, cyber safety, STIs, wellness, bullying, all of those sort of non-academic, non-testables? What do you, and helping them to sort of be better citizens, what do you think is the school's role with that?
Um, I I'm a firm believer in the saying, it takes a village, and I don't think it's exclusively their job. I don't think it's exclusively the school districts or the schoolhouse itself. It's their job at all. I don't think it's their job 100%. I think it's their job to do that. To incorporate that while they have the kids though, and then from there it takes the rest of us. It takes us parents, neighbors, aunts, uncles, relatives, all of the above, to do the rest. So I think school is definitely laced in academics. There's no question about that. But I think that the I really feel like I feel like more character building needs to be incorporated into the academics. And if that's not possible, we need to just afford more time for that to take place outside of academics within school.
Okay. Um, what do you see as, actually, no, we're going to go over to some board education governance. What do you think is the board member's role and responsibility, and how is that different from the role of, say, the superintendent or administration?
Well, I think superintendent administration, they're responsible for the day-to-day workings of the district, day-to-day functions, decisions made, on a daily basis. The board is there just to make sure that machine is put together the right way per se. So the board is to make sure that when decisions are made, they're in accordance and alliance to what that district believes and what their standards are. So the board is just basically like, in my opinion, the board serves heavily as a sort of a system of checks and balances. And when things need to be done and decisions need to be made, they need to come through the board first and go through and come to this quote, I guess you could say, filter, and then from there the superintendent and administration can conduct business as usual from that point on.
All right. How would you like to see the board be accessible to the community and to specific community groups?
Um, I, so I can't speak for the entire board. I just speak for myself. But I like to see myself as being a board member that makes itself available, whether it be through Facebook, cell phone, which there are thousands of kids. So I prefer not to have thousands of text messages, but I know that's also something that comes along with this role. I definitely think accessibility is vital because accessibility promotes communication, and communication is really a foundation of any growth or any productivity whatsoever. So me personally, I'll make myself as accessible as possible to as many people, to as many parents, teachers, and students within the district as possible.
Cool. Overall, what is your sort of vision for education within the community?
When you say vision, what do you mean as far as academics, or as far as how they come together? What do you when you say that?
You define that.
Okay. All right. So, all right. So, what I like to see is a strong, a very strong school district, a respectable school district, a district that the kids that once the kids leave us, they're not ready to be adults, but they're ready for their next phase. They're ready for that next stage of just a little bit more independence, a little bit more accountability instead of it being dumped on them. So I like to see that constant progressive growth of character, academics, personality, finding those goals to, finding, learning how to set those goals and learning how to pursue, and then pursue them, and then be successful behind them. But it's a matter of being taught, teaching our youth the right way to go about it. And I think that's where the message falls off, when that's where the message, it really disappears when it comes to a lack of character building, because that's really what that is. So I like to see more, I'd like to see more tutelage on how to be good people and how to progress and thrive as individuals, as well as academics. And that way, when they do leave the hub of Fort Zumwalt School District, they're ready for that next challenge, for that next that next phase of life. That's just in my perfect world. Nobody's going to ever come out perfect or be perfect, but at least I just like to think we could better prepare our youth for what's after high school, because I think, yeah, they can score 32, but I also want you to be able to make some decisions on your own too, and be able to thrive and be successful.
Sure. So I'm going to go off script here for one question, because that brought something up for me. So one of the things, again, that's sort of come up with the foundation is bullying is something that happens. It happens at all levels, right? Starting at elementary school. And we've seen bullying based on a lot of different things. Notably, Zumwalt in the last year has gotten some pretty bad press on bullying from teachers from the LGBT community, or for the LGBT community. And I'm curious as to your take on that. And I'm curious as to where you'd like to, how you'd like to see that approached in the future. As a whole, and supporting our LGBT youth.
So me personally, I'm definitely I don't tolerate bullying at all. And with that being said, it's totally unacceptable. There's no degree of it that's acceptable or okay. So that's first thing first. Now, as far as dealing with the bullying when it happens, it needs to be dealt with. It needs to be dealt with swiftly and seriously. That's something everybody needs to be held accountable. So any bullying of any type, anywhere across the board, all needs to be treated the same. And when I say the same, I mean it needs to be taken seriously, because that could lead to so many other problems and so many other things, because a lot of these kids, they internalize things, and bullying is one of those things that just it really exacerbates it. And next thing you know, you have a kid that's dealing with now they're making more radical decisions than they've ever made before because they've suppressed these emotions, and then on top of suppressing them, now they're at school getting bullied for whatever reason. So I think bullying is totally unacceptable, and I think that it's something that needs to be dealt with seriously, and I'll always be a proponent for that. That will never change.
So one of the things that we also have seen is that the standards or the policies for dealing with that are
Mhm.
not being implemented necessarily consistently. So again, what would your approach be for that?
Uh, Same as everything else, reassess it. Let's reassess it and see if the way this is designed now, is this servicing our society, is this servicing our student body and or teachers as well as it could be. And if it's not, then we need to make changes. Sometimes things are just left alone. Sometimes things are just left where they are because it's not convenient to deal with them. And I think that's where I would set myself apart and say, okay, well, we need to look at this. We need to figure out, okay, so they didn't break this rule or that rule. Okay, so why is that not a rule? How do we make that a rule now? How do we make this now adaptable to today versus 10 years ago when this was established? Because maybe that wasn't a thing, quote unquote, back then, quote unquote. So you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
one of those, so that's just me. That's how I approach things because I want a long-term solution. Just to drop the hammer today on something that happened today, and then okay, yeah, we showed that student that, whatever verbiage you you choose to use, and let's say you give them a 10-day suspension for it. Well, that still didn't change anything long term. It was a short-term fix for that moment in that situation. We need to have long-term solutions. So when or if this happens, it's known how serious it'll be dealt with. There's no question. It shouldn't, a parent shouldn't have to come to a board meeting, take time out of their day or week or whatnot, and to come to a board meeting to talk to us about something like that. That's something that should be dealt with on the administrative level when it happens, and in all the appropriate ways. So yeah, so that's my approach to it, is I just make sure it's reassessed and it's brought up to date, you know.
Okay. All right, cool. Um, what do you think is the major issue, the one major issue that's facing Fort Zumwalt School District right now?
um right now I think it's student equity, but not just from a racial standpoint. I think all across the board. But I think that also stems from when you have a district this big, you have a lot of different dynamics that you're servicing. So, am I making excuses for the district? No, but is there understanding as to there's a lot of different dynamics to consider here? Yes, I do understand that. So I think that's the biggest issue, but I think that's where it's laced in. I think it's just that more attention and more time needs to be spent on the student body and the teachers, and making sure everybody is feeling included and feeling part of the district, as opposed to just a fly on the wall sometimes. So I think that's the biggest thing, but I also think that's probably an issue a lot of districts are having. I don't think we're the only one.
Okay, all right. Um, how does the school board balance the need to provide quality education programs with the need to respond to local taxpayer burden?
What do you mean we say taxpayer burden?
So the tax, property tax is increasing
Mhm.
and needing to keep that under control versus we need that money because we need better teacher salaries, we need better buildings, things like that.
Okay, so the way I feel about that is this: I feel like prior to any of any tax increases, I think the budget really has to be reassessed. You want to make sure that's necessary, and if you can't move some money from one place to another place, or maybe see where maybe somebody may have dropped the ball, somewhere, and there's maybe money in an account that maybe got overlooked, or if there's some misspending in one place or another. I think that has to take place first, and I think behind that, only if it's absolutely needed, then I'm a proponent of it. And the reason why is because I feel like I'm investing in my kids, and there's no parent here, in my opinion, no good parent will have a ceiling on what they're willing to invest in their kids. Now, there is more manageable. There's a lot more manageable tax increases versus some of the higher ones where they try and go a little above and beyond. But I do think that they are necessary. I think cost of living is going up, and not only that, as a not only as a parent, but even as a homeowner, I think we all know that school districts always substantiate the values of our homes. That's just economics, and so that's just an added reason. That's icing on the cake, but ultimately it's my kids. So when they go for tax increases, yeah, I'm gonna vote yeah, me personally. But it's only because I see that as an investment in not only my kids but the village around me as well. That's an investment in your neighbor's kids and the people in the next subdivision kids. So it takes all of us, and I think that's just us doing our part.
All right. Um, as a member of the board right now, and I know that you don't have the budget or anything in front of you, but are there any areas that you're saying, I think we might be spending too much on that?
Right now, no, because because I haven't seen that budget, and I don't want to make an ignorant statement. And so me, I really, I weigh I hold myself very accountable. So I want to make sure I definitely want to make sure I have, all the facts and the numbers accurate. But when I do, I have no problem at that point answering that question.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Um, and again, are there areas that you would say, I feel like this is really pretty off limits?
When you say off limits, what do you mean
Yeah,
by that?
in the budget. Like if you looked at a line item, just like in your head, you're like, that's not something I would tamper with.
Um, any existing resources that the teachers are benefiting from right now, that right there. Anything that's going to negatively affect the teachers, I'm not going to be a proponent of. That's 100%. Just because, and this isn't me selling myself. This is serious. Like, because I understand. I'm in a union myself, so I get it. I understand how important the labor side of things are, because without that labor being established and being and having what it needs, not only to get through day to day, but to be able to thrive, then at that point, if they don't have that, then your company suffers. And if you want to compare the district to a company, we're going to suffer. So I don't want to do anything that's going to put any type of negative burden on the teachers, aka the district. It's just, it's, to me, it's not smart, but it's just me.
Okay, all right. I think that's fair. Okay, I think that's the end of all of our questions. I've enjoyed our chat, and I want to give you just a couple of minutes, if you would like, for any final thoughts on your part.
um I just want to let everybody know who is listening or who does view this, view this video later, that I truly appreciate you taking the time out to be here and hear the things I have to say. Hopefully I've earned your vote or haven't lost your vote, from being here. But I do want to thank you all for, for hanging out, I guess you could say, and hearing my answers. And hopefully, I've said things that have encouraged you all, or made you all feel like I'm the right candidate. And also, I am available at any time. If you all, please feel free to reach out to reach out to me on my Facebook campaign page. You can always message me there. It comes straight to my phone, and I answer usually within 15 to 30 minutes. So unless I'm at work. So other than that, though, I do thank you, and I appreciate everyone for your consideration. And I look forward to another opportunity to crossing paths with all of you that I don't know who's listening right now.
And Gabriel, what is your campaign Facebook page?
It's Helms for, let me pull it up right here. Sorry. It is Helms 4 FC School Board.
Okay, and we will
Yes.
put a link to that
Okay.
when we finalize this live.
Okay.
And I will also remind everybody, please, please, please make your plan to vote. Local elections, guys, are where you have the absolute most input and the most impact. And the Board of Election, or I'm sorry, the Board of Education elections are just so very important as it relates to, no kidding, your daily life. The decisions that are made
Absolutely.
there are things that you find out about when you get a note home from your kid. So don't let that happen to you. This is where you can absolutely make an impact. And I'm not kidding you, every single time I voted for candidates, I didn't know anything about them. So I'm so thrilled that we're able to meet you, Gabriel. And I feel like we got a really good glimpse into what you can do on the school board. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you as well. Don't forget, March 11th is the last day to register to vote.
March 11th is the last day to register. The Find the Light Foundation.org has all of your information, links to register, as well as a plan to vote information packet for you. So go there and we can get you all set up. If you're a senior, you can register if you're 17 now, but will be 18 by the 11th. So celebrate your birthday by voting and making a difference. So thanks so much, everybody. All right, Gabriel, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.